I advise a lot of agents that they should learn how to wholesale. I'll make $15,000 on a deal that an agent would make $3,000 on. And it's essentially, in a way, it's very similar in that I'm involved in a transaction and there's paperwork. But one is listing, one is wholesaling, one makes 10 times more money typically, or a lot more money. I'm a real estate investor, licensed agent. Mostly the license was just to help with the investing side. So I've never really acted much as an agent in the traditional sense. I've mainly maintained and kept my license active to facilitate and help with the investing. Got started 20 years ago, so I've been full-time active investor for a little over 20 years now. I specialize in flipping strategies, so where you get in and out as quick as possible on deals. So basically stuff from right away where I'm in and out immediately, where I don't even own it very long or at all, and don't fix it up or anything and just resell it. Maybe we'll talk about how to trade paper, called wholesaling, all the way to buy it, put an extensive renovation into it, and then sell it for more, from buying a lot and building new construction and selling that. I'm working on an $8 million luxury house right now in Puerto Rico. So that's kind of my specialty, is on the flipping side of things.
Cool. Heck yeah, dude. That's awesome. And how did you get into the flipping?
Like most people who try to get into real estate, I had no credit, no cash, no money, no experience, but wanted something better than, my minimum wage job. And I learned about this unique technique called wholesaling, which didn't require that I had to have the money to buy the property. All it meant was I had to go get a good deal. And if I could contract that deal at a discounted price and then find someone else that would want that deal, willing to pay more, and do some paperwork, transfer the contract to that new buyer, and I could make money. So I learned that idea, and it was basically like, okay, go hustle. And if you can do this well enough, then you could do it a few times a month and make fairly decent money and break into real estate. And so that's what I did. It was Metro Detroit. It was inner city Detroit. I would flip these little houses that I'd get for like $5,000. I'd sell them for $10,000. And I do that 4 or 5 times a month. I got pretty good at it, and it allowed me to sort of get my foot in the door to real estate, and allowed me to go on and do, more things and bigger things. But it started out with that wholesaling strategy of no money, no credit, no nothing, just hustle. And so I'm extremely grateful. And I've kind of taken that concept of wholesaling a house and turned it into an entire business that does millions of dollars a year transacting that way.
With the wholesaling side of things, is that something that you think is the best point of call, or at least the best starting point for any agent right now? Let's say they're new to the business, they want to have some supplementary income. Would you suggest them do the same thing?
Definitely. In fact, I advise a lot of agents that they should learn how to wholesale. I mean, if you think about it, let's say that you sit down with a distressed seller, they've got a property that they want to sell, and you decide to list that property for them and sell it for $100,000, and an investor buys it for $100,000. And you get a 3% commission, that's $3,000. Well, my average $100,000 wholesale deal is $15,000.
Yeah.
So I'll make $15,000 on a deal that an agent would make $3,000 on. And it's essentially, in a way, it's very similar in that, I'm involved in a transaction and there's paperwork, but one is listing, one is wholesaling, one makes 10 times more money typically, or a lot more money.
Yeah. That makes sense. So how does the conversation differ now when you're talking to a seller in regards to you representing them as an agent versus how you would approach them maybe to wholesale the home?
Great question. You do have to be very, very careful if you're licensed and you're doing this, because everyone knows who's licensed. Disclosure is a really big deal. In fact, that idea of disclosure is rolling into the wholesaling industry big time with regulation that's passing. But when you sit down with a seller, if you're licensed, the way I do it is I say to the seller, look, I've got a few different solutions here. Help me understand your problem, and I'll try to present to you the right solution. If the right solution is you don't have time and you don't want to have showings and you don't want to fix it up and you don't want to have inspections, a buyer that's going to get a mortgage, that's going to need an appraisal, you don't want all these things, and you're interested in a discounted cash offer for the speed and convenience, then let's have that conversation. If you do have time and you do want to get the highest price the market will pay, then we could talk about doing that. Like, what is your issue right now? And so an agent who only wears one hat, which is listed for sale on the open market, is only providing one solution to a seller, whereas I can provide multiple solutions. We can buy it for cash. We can do creative financing if you're willing to wait to get paid some or all of the money. Or if you want retail and you're willing to wait for all of that and do the work necessary, then we'll list it for you. Tell me what you want and I'll provide the right solution. So that's the kind of the way I like to approach the business. Now, if it's a retail property and a retail seller, then there's only one solution, and that's let's list it on the market and get you the highest price the market will pay. So I'm specifically talking about distressed real estate. Distressed real estate, that seller typically falls into anywhere from I want the money now and I need to close in 5 days because I'm going to lose it to foreclosure, or I'm getting divorced, whatever the thing is, all the way to no, I got time and I can wait. Yep. So your job and my job as specializing in distressed real estate is to find out the seller's need and provide them the right solution.
Fantastic. And what are the characteristics of a perfect home for a wholesaling deal?
Well, the perfect home for a wholesaler would be a seller who has urgency and they have either they're in distress, meaning there's some kind of financial thing that's going on. It could be divorce, bankruptcy, foreclosure. It could be an inherited property. They could be a tired landlord and they don't want to fix it up for a new tenant. It could be dozens of different reasons why the seller's in distress and they want the money fast. Or the property's in distress and the seller doesn't want to do what it takes to bring it out of distress. Yeah. And so either one of those situations, the seller's in distress or the property's in distress, and the seller doesn't want to do the necessary things to get all the equity out of the property, that's the ideal situation for a wholesaler. So I think about it like this. This is the best analogy I can think of. CarMax, most people have heard of CarMax. Yep. They're the largest used car dealership in the country, right? Somebody takes their car to CarMax and they know that they're getting a discount on the car, but they do it for speed and convenience because they don't want to post it on Facebook Marketplace. They don't want a weirdo showing up their house that wants to test drive it. They don't want to put new tires on it. They don't want to help somebody get the financing to buy it. They know that if they did all that, they could get a higher price. But they're like, you know what? I can walk in the CarMax and walk out of there with a check. I'm good. And I'll take it at 90% or 80%, whatever. I'll take the discount to be done with it. That's what a wholesaler does. They bring that convenience and speed with a cash offer that seller would rather have.
That makes perfect sense. So let's talk about the evolution. So as a wholesaler, obviously that was your first step into the industry. And then you move from wholesaling to flipping. How does that differ and how do you make that transition?
Yeah, it's quite a bit different because flipping means that I've got to get the capital, I've got to buy the property, take title, and now I've taken on a level of risk because now I own the property. Whenever you own property, you inherently take on risk. Now I've got to do a value add by doing improvements, so I've got to hire contractors and manage them. That's a strategy that's definitely next level to wholesaling because rather than taking a sliver of the pie like a wholesaler does and passing the deal on to the investor, you're taking all the meat on the bone that way. And you're in the deal now for 4, 5, 6 months typically, but you're going for the bigger win. You're going for the bigger profit. So the way I like to look at this, Jide, and not everybody looks at it this way, but I want to be an acquisition company. I want to be direct to deals. So I do marketing to get in front of sellers. I target distressed sellers. So hopefully I'm talking to distressed sellers. And then I use a baseball analogy. I talk to that seller, I make my offer, or I try to provide the right solution. And the deal is going to fall into either a single, a double, a triple, a home run, or a grand slam.
Cool.
Now, everyone's got a different definition of what a home run deal would be. I have my own definition. But if that deal is, let's say, a home run, then I'm going to get the funding, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to do the value add, and then I'm going to flip it and go for the big win because it's a home run deal. If it's a single, double, or triple, then I don't want to take that deal on, tie up bandwidth, tie up capital, tie up time, energy, and effort for a single. Because I know that my single is somebody else's home run, meaning somebody else has lower standards or lower margins than I do. So what I'll do then is I'll wholesale that deal. I'll make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Somebody else will take that one and they'll do the work to take it to the finish line. And then I'll hold out for the home run. So then I have options. I'm choosy. I can be picky. I can only take on the deals that I really love. And those are the deals that I try to hold out for. You could take that to mean buy and hold and add it to a portfolio. You could mean that to keep it as a flip. Whatever your exit strategy might be, I like to be direct to deals. So that way I have all the options. I don't ever want my business to be contingent on somebody else bringing me inventory, because now my business is volatile, right? I don't really have much control. I want to control deal flow. And the way I control deal flow is I do the marketing to get in front of sellers. I offer the sellers the right solutions. The ones that are big wins, I keep. The ones that are marginal, I wholesale. And that's my business in a nutshell. I learned this the hard way. So what was happening was I was in Metro Detroit. I was wholesaling houses and I was flipping entry-level homes for around $150,000. So basically I would buy them for 75. I'd put 25 into them. I'd be all in at 100. I'd sell for 140. After financing and commissions and fees, I would make 25. And I was good at it. I was doing 50 to 80 of these a year. So I'd have like 10 or 15 going on at a time, little 1,000 square foot ranches and bungalows in Metro Detroit. Well, I got this lead that was in a nicer neighborhood. It was a $400,000 house. I bought the house. I used my same crew, my same Home Depot appliances and finishes. So everything was the same, except that it was higher numbers. It was a $400,000 house, not a $150,000 house. And I made $75,000 on one deal instead of 25. And I sat back and I said, it was basically the same time, energy, and effort. Everything was the same, but I made 75 instead of 25. Why am I doing small deals? Why don't I do bigger deals? Right. And so I had this like mental epiphany. And from that moment on, I started to move into higher margin deals. I mean, I'll give you an example. In Scottsdale, Arizona, I bought a house for $2.8 million. I put $1 million into it. So now I'm into it for 3.8. And I sold this thing for the high fours and netted $1 million. Now, It was buying a house. It was a closing. It was contractors. It was selling it with an agent. I mean, it was more capital, bigger project, but essentially, whether you flip a $100,000 house or $1 million house, it's kind of the same thing.
Dude, that's so awesome. That's a really cool story. I think a lot of people, and I'm just thinking about myself here. I'm like, this sounds great. Let me do this tomorrow. But what I think a lot of people have hesitations on is the background in construction. Because I know a lot of people that have got into the flipping business have a very robust knowledge around construction prior to being in it. So they feel more comfortable. Did you have that background in construction, and how did you put your team together?
No, I didn't. And one of the rules about flipping is you almost never get it right or never figure it out. What I mean by that is you're taking an old dilapidated house and you're tearing into it to fix it up, and you create a budget and you think you know what it's going to cost. And then you find out it never costs that. It always costs more. And when you miss the number, you're never under budget. You're always over budget. So it's always an art. And that's why there's no publicly traded flippers. I mean, Zillow tried it and got hammered. I mean, lost millions trying it. So it's always going to be a mom and pop operation, because every property is its own business. It's its own unique set of situations. And so the way that you play safe is you're very careful about what projects you take on. You don't take on, homes built in 1900 that need redesigned and open floor plans and additions. Like, you don't go in that big and heavy until you gain a lot of experience. And even then, just you've got to build in a lot of room for error. So here's how I look at it, Jide. Like, when I go into a flip, let's say that I penciled to make 150,000 on the deal. Well, I want to go into that deal knowing that if I miss the back end value and it doesn't sell for as much as I thought, and I go $40,000 over budget, I make 75 instead of 150, and my loss is still okay. Like, I call it win to. I go into to lose but win. Yep. Where people get into trouble is they go in to make 25 and it sells for less than they thought, and they go over budget and they lose 15 grand. The old cliche, you make your money when you buy. It's true with flipping. You got to buy right and give yourself lots of room so that if it doesn't work out and you blow it, you still make money. I want to blow the deal and make money. Yeah. Now I'm still upset. Like, oh man, I only made 40. I was trying to make 100. That sucked. I can live with it. You know what I mean? Like I'll get over it. People get into
So,
trouble when they're too tight on their margins and then they lose money.
so there's that level of tolerance that you need to have, a decent tolerance range where you're like, okay, cool. In a
Every
worst
time.
case
I've been doing
scenario,
it 20 years and you still have to have that tolerance because you're still it's still not going to go right. It never does.
that's interesting. And something you mentioned just at the beginning there when you were speaking, as far as flipping goes, being that it's a small business industry, right? Would you say that flipping and wholesaling is probably or arguably the most important tool that any agent or loan officer can add to their arsenal? Because what we're seeing right now is AI and technology and all these big companies starting to eat up market share. Is this that fail-safe, do you think, for LOs and agents to be able to continue at least receiving income in other ways?
Well, I would say yes to wholesaling. I think that's certainly true for wholesaling because wholesaling aligns more directly with real estate agent work because you're transacting, you're in the transaction, but you're not actually the one that ends up buying the property and doing the value add. That's definitely more into the category of like investing, taking on risk. Those flips are going to require a lot of your time, but wholesaling, absolutely. Like I honestly believe that you will not survive if you're an agent only in the future because of the changes that we've seen in how commission structure is with buyers agents. I think technology is going to continue to evolve into the listing side. I think agents are going to have to be able to wear different hats and provide different solutions. And if they don't, I think technology is going to push them aside because you have to show your value as an agent. You don't just get the commission because you showed up and happen to be buyer representation. You now have to have a presentation to the buyer, justify your fee, and sell yourself. You have to learn sales and marketing as an agent. The two most important things that an agent needs to do is sales and marketing and business and how to value properties. Those are the two things they don't teach you in real estate school.
Yep.
And they're the two most important skills that you need as an agent to be successful. So that transfers over into wholesaling very nicely. I think too, wholesalers and agents don't get along.
Direct competition almost.
They think that. Now, wholesalers don't think agents are competition at all because here's the difference. Wholesalers serve a very specific seller, distressed sellers, and they stay in their lane for the most part. They're not really trying to pick up retail business. They're not looking for that. They don't want that because the margins are so small in that. Now, I do it as a last ditch effort, meaning I market to distressed sellers, but if a retail seller comes in my pipeline, then I'm going to offer to list for them because why not? I spent the money on the marketing. We're talking right now. I know how to do it and I'll offer that solution. But that's not what I'm after. What I'm after is the deep buy where I can wholesale it for $50,000 or flip it, buy it and flip it, right? That's what I'm really trying to accomplish. An agent, though, they think in the National Association of Realtors, they think that wholesalers are stealing their business. The reality, though, is that a real estate agent listing their property on a distressed seller situation is not the right solution for that seller. So they aren't providing the solution and they won't go with that agent. They're going to call a We Buy Houses cash sign, or they're going to fill out a form on Google Ads and they're going to come in my funnel, or I'm going to cold call them because they're on a list. They're going to proactively outbound a wholesaler, or a wholesaler is going to reach out to them. They're going to be talking to a wholesaler who's going to offer them the solution they're looking for that an agent isn't able to offer traditionally. So when an agent learns how to offer that solution, it's game over. Like they're now not missing out on that segment of the market.
Yeah. And also it's like you need to get a feel for the seller. If you have a feel for the seller, like they do feel like they're in a need to sell this home fast, if you don't have the option to give them the ability to do that, they are going to feel that necessity to step outside of you and do the CarMax approach. So
yeah, it won't work. It won't work. Just like if a seller says, look, I've got time and I want the highest price the market will pay. Well, I could push my cash offer on them, but they're going to say no because my cash offer is going to be at a discount. Mm-hmm. So what am I doing? I'm wasting my time trying to provide the wrong solution. And I would never do that. That won't work. It'll be a waste of everybody's time because that seller, that's not the solution for that seller.
Yep.
100%. Now I have to often educate sellers. Like I was just on a call at a live event. They put me on the call calling distressed sellers in front of 3,500 people. I get on the phone with the seller. Now this was an inherited property from mom. He's the executor of the will, so he represents the family. and this property needs a ton of work because mom lived in it forever and it's been neglected. And so he's very smart, very intelligent, doing his homework. He knows what values are. So I said to him, I said, look, help me understand what you're looking for. If you're looking for the highest price the market will pay and you're willing to clean the property out and you're willing to fix some things, get good pictures, list it up for sale, deal with inspections, have showings, take the time to list it and sell it and get the highest price, dude, you need a real estate agent. That's going to be what is the right thing for you. And I said, but if you're looking for speed and convenience and get this thing done next Friday and as is, and you don't have to fix anything, do anything, you don't even want to clean it out, I got the solution for that. But I'm not going to be retail. I'm going to be way down here at a discount.
Yep.
And I said, you see the difference? And he's like, yeah, that's what I want. He said, that's what I want. I don't want the other one. I want that one. I said, okay, you realize that you're going to pay a discount for that, right? And he's like, yeah, I get it. I said, okay, well, the retail number of 500,000, I need to be in the low threes. And he's like, can you come up to 350? But see, now I'm having the right conversation.
Yep.
Said I want full price the market will pay, then I wouldn't have even said, here's my cash offer.
No, totally. I mean, that's just gonna set the conversation in the wrong tone too, because it's almost disrespectful at this point to the seller.
Yep. He's going to be offended at that offer, and rightly so. I'm offering something that's offensive because that's not what he wants.
At the end of the day, he's paying for speed. It's speed and convenience. It's like fast food versus going to sit down at a restaurant. The value of him having that money now is more than the difference in the retail price versus the price that you're willing to pay.
Yeah. I live on this big homestead here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And it's funny, Jide, because I got all this spring cleanup to do, leaves and trimming trees and everything. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to take me, a couple Saturdays, but I could do it. So what I do, I call a landscaper. He comes out and he's like, I could show up here with 5 guys. We could knock this out in one day and be done, but it's $3,000. And I'm like, do I want to spend $3,000 and it's done? Or do I want to go through all the brain damage? That's the decision we all make when we spend our money.
100%. That's me with cleaners, because my family, completely irrelevant, but my family run a cleaning business back in the UK. So I've been cleaning since I was 16. But my own house, I'm like, I let things slip. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I know how to clean. I need to clean it, but I'll let it slide for weeks. And at the end of the day, for me, it's like, okay, it makes more sense for me to get a cleaner in than for me to spend 4 or 5 hours trying to clean the house, because the time value of that 4 or 5 hours could be 3 to 4 times the amount of money that I'd spend on the cleaner. Yeah.
But some people would choose to clean it themselves. My job when I talk to a seller is to try to uncover what their motivation is. And in wholesaling, we call it the 4 pillars, right? Which is there some sort of distress going on? Is there urgency? Is there a condition problem, meaning the property's in poor condition? You're always going to get a discount if there's a bunch of work that needs done. And are they willing to accept a discounted price? So it's distress, urgency, condition, price. If those 4 things are there, then I know that a low cash offer that can close quickly as is probably a good solution for that seller.
That's awesome. And as far as uncovering those pieces right there, do you have scripts and things of that nature that you give to people that helps them to kind of get to that hit those?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I can provide those for your viewers if you'd like. They're free to download. I'm happy to do that. I can give you a link that you offer people. And so most of it is just repetition, right? So like, I'm not a big fan of word for word scripts because you're going to sound like a robot and not authentic. But role play it and practice it and get the idea of like the right kind of questions to ask. And then it's just reps, it's like anything, you do it enough times and it starts to feel second nature. You know how to overcome objections, ask the right questions. And so like when you watch me do it, I do a lot of it on my YouTube channel because people like to see it in process. And I do it with agents because I buy a lot from agents, and I do it with sellers directly. And you'll see like this flow that goes on, and I sort of like get in a zone and it feels very natural. I'm building trust. I'll tell sellers all the time, I'm not the right solution, or a cash offer doesn't sound like the right solution. So I try to just be a servant and have a serving heart and a go-giver. That seems to win. That seems to work well. Even if it's subconscious, people resonate with authenticity and they're going to trust me. Sometimes I walk out of there with the deal and my offer's $20,000, $30,000 lower than other offers they got, but they go with me because they feel confidence. And most distressed sellers, they want confidence that you're going to perform more than price.
Yep.
because they want to know that you're going to get to the finish line, because there's urgency in their life to get this problem out of their life. And so they'll take that discount if they feel like they can trust you more than the next guy.
100%. This is something I'm curious about. How does lead generation work for this? Whereabouts are you finding these leads?
There's lots of different ways to get in front of these types of sellers. There's inbound methods and there's outbound methods. Obviously, the cheaper the marketing channel, then the longer the nurture cycle. Like there's a lot of follow-up. So for example, I developed a software called PropWire. It's the second largest data software in the country. It's free. People can go on there and search and download data for free. But the idea there is you can go in there and you can look up probate leads, pre-foreclosure, absentee owners, which is someone who owns a property they don't live in, and a whole list of different types of motivation. Then you get that list and then you get their phone number. We call that skip tracing, right? And then you outbound those sellers. You call them up and say, hey, are you interested in selling? Now that process is very cheap. It's very time consuming, takes a lot of follow up, but you can get a lot of deals that way. So the trade-off is like 6 months on average to get a lead, to get a deal of following up. It's cheap. It's a lot of work because you're calling a lot of people to find the one that says yes. The expensive inbound marketing is Google Ads. We call that pay-per-click. You pay a lot of money. On average, we pay $6,000 in marketing for one contract. So we close 1 in 15 of those leads, but we spend $300 for that lead. And that's somebody who's filling out on Google that says, need to sell my house fast for cash. Like there's desperation there. Yeah. And so that lead comes in and they're hot. Like they're like, my foreclosure is on Friday and it's Tuesday. Can you buy my house and save me from foreclosure? Like it's that situation. And so like those leads, we jump up and down. We do, because those are hot leads. But those ones we make 30 to 35,000 on average wholesaling those leads.
And at the end of the day, I'm sure that $6,000 cost was a lot more expensive at the beginning because you had to refine the ads and all that stuff. Because I know Google ads, you have to be very specific and have the right keywords. And I'm sure that's everything you guys have kind of dialed in.
Yeah, the rule is you need about 6 months of runway. Yep. So if you're spending and you want to start with about $6,000 in ad spend, so you don't even want to start on that marketing channel unless you've got about $36,000 to put into the marketing. So you build up to it. That's the thing, is you start with the free and the low cost stuff. And then what I recommend is you reinvest your profits back into the business. Now you can start to spend the money on the marketing, on team processes, right? Like any business, I believe you build it as you go. Start where you're at and build it as you go.
Dude, that's so awesome. Yeah, I think you're right. And so let's talk about the 2 tools that you're offering everyone in the community. If you could break them down for us, that'd be awesome.
There's a tool, we call it Data Cruncher. It's just a fun little name. We named it. But what this tool is it's an on-market deal finder tool. And the reason why this tool is so valuable is because some sellers, they don't know how to find a wholesaler for the fast cash convenient offer. So what they do is they list it with an agent, but it's still a distressed property and they'll still take a discount. So some of those properties get listed with agents on market. Now, they're sort of hard to find because it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, because you'll go on Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com, or an agent will send you listings. And in any given market, there's hundreds of listings and maybe there's a handful that are distressed properties. So like you just spend so much time trying to sort through and find them. So what we did is we developed the software, and what it does is it takes everything in a given zip code and it scrapes all the listings and it pulls out the ones that are distressed properties. So we do a lot of keywords and we actually look at list price and we compare the list price to the average sold price per square foot in that market. And then we serve up a list and we say, hey, these are discounted listings and they're probably sellers that would entertain a cash offer. And so all it does is it's a massive time saver. It gets you right in front of properties where you can call and make offers on. Yeah. And then I teach a very unique strategy where I call it the double dip technique. But what we do is we don't go with representation to those listing agents. We call the listing agent up unrepresented and we say to that listing agent, hey, I'll let you dual represent this deal and make the offer on my behalf so you get both sides of the commission. Now that agent's very motivated to work with you and get your deal through because they're getting paid both sides.
Dude, see, these are the things, all about efficiencies.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're speeding everything up at each stage of the process. It's filtering. It's like you could spend hours sifting through Zillow, or you could have something that's a lot more intelligent, because obviously you're reading the AVMs and then you're comparing the AVMs to the actual value, and then you're going into more detail as far as the keywords there. Like the amount of information that you're sifting through with this technology is stuff that we wouldn't even be able to do on our own anyway.
No,
So
and it's instant. So
right.
when you get the tool, you put your zip code in and hit go, and it goes and gives you a list, and it numbers the list by highest discounted price first, and it'll tell you 43% below average. So then it even tells you like which ones to go after first, because you go for the biggest discounted properties first, obviously. So then all it does is it just instantly gets you in front of a list for free. And now these are on market, so you're not talking to the seller, you're talking to the agent representing the seller. But if you follow that double dip strategy and you're consistent, there's deals there that you can get.
Well, at the end of the day, having the agent advocate for you, that's a salesperson working on your behalf at that point.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you said that. I have a saying with agents where it's never about the deal in hand. It's always about the relationship. Because when you call that agent on a specific listing, maybe you can work out a deal there. But more important is the conversation I have, which is, hey, the next time you sit down on a listing appointment, tell the seller you have an investor that can offer a cash offer, and see if they want to entertain that before you list it. Now what I've done is I've taken it off market, and I'm not competing with the market. I can get a deal off market through the agent, and I still pay the agent the full double side commission.
Dude, that's awesome.
The other thing, it's not a tool, but it's a training that people should sign up for. So I'm actively buying nationwide to flip. So I have a program, it's a finder program. So let's say someone takes that tool that we give them for free, and let's say you go find a good deal. I'll tell you my criteria on that training. Like, hey, if it meets this criteria, I'll buy it. And so I'll be a built-in buyer for anybody that finds these deals. And so you go through that training, that give the link to go to that training where we break it all down. And then they get that tool and other tools, right? Because I want you to have everything you need to go do it, contracts, whatever you need. I've created sort of like an army of bird dogs in a way. What's great about it is people can break into the business and they don't have to worry about the other side, which is, well, how do I find a buyer that's going to want this great deal I found? I'll be that buyer. So I'm sort of like removing all of the roadblocks for people to get into the business.
That's awesome. Yeah. At the end of the day, there's a lot more confidence there too, because it's only front end now. Back end is already sorted. So I'm sure the phone calls that these people are having, working with you on this, they're having a lot more confidence in their call because they know they can execute because they've got you on the back end ready to buy it.
So we give you everything you need to go like get that good deal. Now you got to do the work. That's your part. But what's great is you just can put your head down and go find a good deal, and you don't have to worry about all the other stuff. I found that for people getting into the business, it's fantastic because it's allowed them to just kind of worry about one thing. You know, certainly in time, you want to get more buyers and have more options and things, and eventually move into investing probably. But everybody's got to start somewhere, and breaking into something new is challenging. So I found that if I can remove some of those barriers, then it just makes it so more people can, get into it. And it's self-serving too, because I get deals.
Right.
Well, everybody sort of wins, I'll pay you for it. I pay $10,000 for these deals. So that's what's cool about this is I'll pay you $10,000 to bring me a good deal.
Yeah. It's sweat equity. You got to be able to get out there and do the work up front, but you've got the roadmap and you've got the playbook that you've put together. So it's going to make it that much easier. And you've got the security with you on the back end. It's almost like riding a bike with training wheels,
I'm happy to pay you $10,000 because you did the work and got a deal that I didn't have to go do the front end for. You did the front end work to get it. I've got capital and processes because I've been doing it so long to take those deals on and flip them. It's sort of like everybody wins, I think, especially if you come from an agent background. So if your audience listening right now has some real estate agent experience, you already know how to talk to a seller. You already know how a closing works and how to open escrow and how contracts work. Like you're already halfway there. So it's like the easiest person to start wholesaling, I think, is a real estate agent because they're already past a lot of beginner things that I have to teach people that don't know anything, that come from a totally different background. I got to teach them, okay, now you open escrow and here's how a contract works. And, here's how to talk to somebody about their house. Agents already know how to do all that.
Yep. Dude, this is perfect. Our community is agents and loan officers. So I feel like everyone, as far as this community, is going to be the perfect fit for
Loan
what
officers could do it too. Yeah, because they're used to all the same types of conversations.
There's so much in it, dude. I love it. This conversation's been really eye-opening for me too. Just some of the pillars that you put together, some of the tools, some of the data stuff. I'm like, okay, damn, you've actually built a lot of systems around this, not just for you, but to scale it for other people. I didn't realize it went into this much detail.
The hardest part about it all, Jide, really is rejection. More people quit from not handling rejection. And rejection is just an unrealistic expectation about what the process looks like. That's all that is, because people come in and they think they'll talk to 5 people and get a great deal. You maybe have to talk to 100 people to get a great deal. Are you willing to get 99 no's for the one yes if the one yes makes $15,000? I am. I'm willing to do that. A lot of people aren't, so they quit. The rejection's too much.
Isn't it funny that after you faced enough rejection, you sit back and you realize, okay, there was absolutely nothing to be afraid of, right? It's like sifting through dirt to find gold. The amount of rejection that you receive is instantly recuperated by that one win. It's like being in a casino almost.
Yeah.
Another reason why agents are perfect for this is that you do, as an agent, have to build up that callus towards rejection. So they're already kind of in that mindset. So
the ones that are good, the agents that are good understand that I'm going to go on X listing appointments and I'm going to get X listing agreements. And that's just how it works.
100%, man. You can't make every shot, but you got to shoot them.
And it's always 0 if you don't go on the appointment, right? So how do you get more listings? You go on more appointments.
Jerry, this has been absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. This is just the beginning. It was really good to connect with you.
See ya.